Okay, so welcome everybody. We have Chantelle with me and Holly. So this is an interview to discuss Holly's results from having a SMART technique session with Chantelle, working specifically on PMDD. Now, Chantelle's recently trained in the SMART technique, and as a case study, Holly wanted to have a session because both ladies have suffered with PMDD, and it was all about reducing symptoms using SMART. Because as Chantelle had researched through her own life journey with PMDD, that a lot of PMDD symptoms can be traced back to underlying trauma in the body and nervous system. So I'm going to speak directly to Holly and just ask Holly if you could just share why you really reached out to have a SMART session.
Yeah, of course. Um, I was diagnosed with PMDD when I was 19, but I've been suffering with it or living with it since I was about 12, 13 years old. And I'm now 27. So it's quite a long time of kind of trying to get through it. I have tried literally just about everything. I've tried multiple different types of contraception, antidepressants. I've had endless talking therapy sessions and counseling sessions. And I even at one point tried medically induced menopause as well.
Oh,
The talking therapy did help a little bit, but I found like I never really had the real relief that I was like really kind of desperately looking for. And so when I heard about the SMART session and I heard about what Chantelle was doing and her own personal experience with PMDD, I thought I've got to try it.
yeah. Wow, Holly, I didn't realize that you had gone down the route of having medically induced menopause.
Yeah, that was really hard and it was not fun.
Wow, did that help?
um, I mean, it got rid of the PMDD, but it came with its own beast. So it wasn't really the trade off that I had wanted. I ended up gaining a lot of weight really quickly. I had a lot of aches and pains, and I had to go on HRT. And so then it was just kind of like closing one box and opening another. And so it didn't really do what I wanted it to do.
Wow, what a journey. And Chantelle, I'm going to come to you if you're okay to speak in a moment, just to quickly brief everybody on your experience with PMDD and why you are specifically niching out in this area with women. But Holly, so you were medically induced put into menopause. That is such a big deal at a young age. That's not a decision I'm sure you took lightly. And yet you still reached out to have a session to help you with your PMDD symptoms. So obviously you were still on that kind of highs and lows with the
Yeah.
symptoms. Tell us like what you've still been experiencing to make you want to have this session.
Well, so when I had the medically induced menopause, I did it for a couple of months and then thought it wasn't right. So came off of that and then went back to just being like completely natural in my body, no contraceptives, no antidepressants, and just to see what my PMDD was like, completely like untouched. Um, and then so when I was, coming on with the before the smart session, I was really feeling before the session specifically, I was feeling a lot of stress and anxiety. I felt like it wasn't possible for me to relax, and especially in the evenings. And then at night, I just couldn't rest properly. I couldn't get a proper night's sleep. And then, so, during the day, I'm absolutely exhausted. I've got
Mm.
real fatigue. Um, which was making me really frustrated because I was so tired that I couldn't do anything. And then that leads to my irritability and my anger and just being really snappy with people around me. And that's just like one area of the PMDD. There's all the other areas that you feel very bloated and heavy in your body. You feel as if this like black cloud comes in and fogs up the way you see yourself, the way you see life, the way you see your relationships with your friends and family members. And it will stay there until you get your period. And usually for me, it's within 24 to 48 hours do the symptoms lift. um, start getting those symptoms sometimes when it's really bad 10 days before my bleed, which means if you think about that, that's almost half the month. So every 2 weeks, essentially, I'm struggling again. And so that makes it impossible to have a proper routine, which is really important when you struggle with a mental health illness, to have routine. But it's really hard to do that because you go right up and you feel great because your hormones change and your post period, then you go into ovulation and you're feeling so much better, and then you just drop off, and the drop off is really intense. So there's a whole host of mental and physical symptoms that come on, and it's actually crazy when you Google it and you look at all the different symptoms. There's just so many to name.
That's incredible. And through Chantelle, my eyes have really been opened up to the world of PMDD, and how much this impacts women's lives. I mean, I know about menopause, perimenopause, I'm in that, and I know the effects of that, but having this from such a young age, when you start your menstrual cycle, to follow you through your whole of your life, that must have, has it affected relationships, jobs, like what area?
100%. It's as a kid, as a young girl, and a teenager, I really struggled with friends because one minute I'd be really up for being social and I'd be like, come round, let's go to parties, let's do all of this. And then the next minute, I just couldn't do anything at all. And when I was in my PMDD mode, as I call it, I'd lash out at my friends, and I have lost so many friends because of my behaviour, which at the time I didn't realise was a mental illness and it was a disability. I just thought, I think people thought I was crazy. I think I thought I was crazy. And so, in terms of my friendship, like I'm building them back up now because I'm so aware of my PMDD and I'm able to manage it better. But I have a really small friendship group, and that's not, if I could go back and redo it, I would have done it differently. Then with my fiance, we've had lots of ups and downs. He's lucky, I'm very lucky, he's super kind and he's very patient and understanding. But it's really hard when you're just constantly up and down. It puts a lot of strain on your relationships as well. And then for work, gosh, I mean, at the moment I'm off on 2 weeks of stress leave because my PMDD sometimes impacts me so much, or rather, if I've had a stressful month, it will really impact my PMDD, and there's no escaping it. So I've had to take a lot of time off work, which, to be honest, isn't great. You have that constant anxiety and fear that your employer thinks, oh, you don't want to work hard, you don't care about the company, you don't care about the business, you don't care about your job. And you constantly have this anxiety in the back of your head. Then you have to disclose it to them and tell them, right, this is why this is happening, because I have a disability. And it's just, God, you just wish it could just not happen. You could just get on. What I often say is I want to just get on with life. And the PMDD, I feel, stops me from doing that. And it impacts my confidence, especially at work. I'll be doubting myself, doubting my decisions. And then I find I just don't want to work, or I don't want to go to work.
Yeah, gosh, that just mirrors what Chantelle said she's felt most of her life as well. Chantelle, I don't know if you're available to come on camera quickly.
Hello.
Don't. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
really
much.
resonate.
It's just
Yeah.
mirrored, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I really resonate with everything that Holly has mentioned there. And interesting about the menopause, the induced menopause as well, because it got to a stage where I was like, I can't actually cope with these symptoms. And I remember discussing it with my gran about having a hysterectomy, but then realised that hysterectomies can't actually solve the symptoms. And a lot of people are having them but had the same symptoms still. So it really resonates with Holly in the fact that you for 2 weeks, you're absolutely fine. You're on top of the world. The next 2 weeks, like everything's just crashing down. And like Holly's just said, at the time when I realized that I'd had this, it was around 2019, although the symptoms I've had my whole life since I started menstruating. It's like at that time, the employer that I worked for was just like complete dismissal of it. Like, unless you've got a doctor's note, and many doctors don't understand the symptoms, there's no way. So that's why I had to completely change my lifestyle, work from home to be able to manage the symptoms every month. And it does just feel like you put yourself on hold. So to be able to firstly experience SMART with yourself, and then have you to guide me and to trust you to guide me through the whole experience, knowing that for me, it's alleviated so many of the symptoms that I will experience every month. It's just like I feel like I have my life back completely. And then the biggest gift has been able to share that with other women who have experienced this their whole entire life. And it is completely debilitating. And I just knew that there had to be something deep down at the root level, that we can't just keep covering up the symptoms. There had to be something else.
Yes, 100%. And it's amazing. I mean, I didn't realize what women go through with PMDD, and just how it's like a wrecking ball in your life, and how much confusion there must be around it. Because if it's not just if the GPs don't widely share about women's hormones anyway, it's kind of taboo, but it's becoming more and more out there but mainly for menopause. They affect everything, and I mean everything. So I'm so happy, Chantelle, that you did decide to do this, give that gift to yourself, and obviously now you're giving back to other women. So you're really helping people. Just going back to Holly, can you just describe, tell us what you thought about the technique itself, because it is designed to be a self-help tool that you can use after the session and then as and when you need it. So how did you experience the technique?
So I had never really done anything like the SMART technique before. And so if I'm honest, I wasn't 100% sure what to kind of expect. Yourself and Chantelle had given me a bit of an idea of what it was going to be like. I'd done my due diligence, but I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like. That being said, the session itself, like Chantelle, you were great. I just felt really at ease. And because you have PMDD as well, I instantly felt like you understood. And that in itself was really validating. Then going on to the session, because you have to really feel the disempowered pose in your body, and that at first is kind of a bit tricky to wrap your head around. Like, I don't want to go back to that place, but then when you explain why we do it, it's like, okay, let's do it. And at first it felt a little bit weird, but then when you really get into it and you just think, you know what, this could really, really help, so let's just try to fully embrace every area of it as possible. And then shifting from your disempowered place to your empowered pose, and thinking about your super positive, your joyful, your favorite memory, and then trying to mix the two. It's kind of hard to do, right? Because you're like, you've got to think that you're in this empowered pose, but also be thinking about the disempowered feelings, and you've got to kind of, you're deliberately confusing your mind and your body so that you repattern it. And it's kind of quite weird to kind of wrap your head around. And when you try and talk to people who have no idea about the technique, they're like, what?
Yeah.
You're like, I know, but honestly, it's great. You've got to try it.
It's amazing. It's exhausting though, isn't it? It really does tire your body out. So tell us, like, what you noticed, as in the changes, the results after the session, because The SMART technique works instantly. We grab a memory or a visual representation, and we note the emotional intensity, and then we use the SMART technique, which is a unique repatterning method, and then we watch how the memories that were impacting the emotions that were impacting the memory just start to dissipate, and it kind of fades into fog, and you can look at that memory then without being triggered at all. So it kind of just resets it in the nervous system. You know that thing happened, but there is actual no emotional weight attached to it now. So in the environment, you can't be triggered anymore. So what did you notice straight away or the next day as a result of the SMART?
So I think, to answer your question, like before the session, I felt really stressed and I felt heavy in my body and I felt very negative. Like my thoughts were very all consuming and negative. After the session, I stood up and I was kind of like, huh, wow. Like I felt physically lighter. I think at one point I may have actually done a little jump for joy.
I love that.
And I, like, my initial thing is I noticed that, so I will sing around the house when I'm feeling happy, and within about 20 minutes I caught myself singing, and I was like, okay, that's my first like proper sign actually that I feel happy. And so that was brilliant. And then I just felt just genuine, like it's really hard to explain, but just so much lighter in my body, and my body wasn't aching. I was able to just kind of be like, oh, I need to grab something else to wear and change clothes. Didn't even have to think about it, just was like, off we go, put it on. And when I usually have my PMDD, that's impossible because I'm sort of there's too many choices. I'm paralyzed by all the decisions, and it's such a small decision, but for some reason in the moment you're like, oh my God, what do I do? And so that was a massive difference for me. And then later into the evening, I just felt like I was able to just really, truly relax. My mind felt a lot clearer in the evening. And then when I went to bed, I literally got into bed, and I think within about 5 minutes, I was fast asleep. And I actually had a really long sleep. So I didn't wake up the next day until like 9 a.m. or something. And usually I'm like at 7:30, I have to get out of bed because I'm fed up of this rubbish sleep that I'm having. And I just slept so well that I just felt like, I was like, I feel so rested that I feel like anything's now possible with my day. And I got up and I went to my power yoga session, and it's quite a quick, it's really intense yoga session. You know, we're doing like handstands and shoulder
Wow.
stands and, you know, but quite intense poses, and they're really strong. So you sweat quite a lot, you use a lot of energy. And I was in this session, and bearing in mind I'd done one a couple of days before, and my balance was off. I couldn't be present in the class, and I was looking at the clock like I want to go home. The hour went like that, and I was in the class. I just was able to push all my thoughts outside of my head and just be super present in the moment and in my body and with my breath work. And it was like 60 minutes of heaven because I was able to just fully silence my mind. And you know, if you compare that with a couple of days earlier, when in my PMDD stage as well, I couldn't do that. And actually, I wanted to go home and I didn't want to be there. So that was massive for me. And then afterwards, I was like, I'll just go run some errands. Like, I've got the energy, I've got the time. Why not? It's not really that much hassle. So I ran a whole load of errands. And then I picked up my fiance and said, should we just nip out for a quick lunch? Nipped out for a quick lunch, got a nice little something to eat. And I know these are really small things, but like when you have PMDD, you can't do this. Like, you can't do it. You are literally sort of like trapped inside your house. You're trapped inside your mind, and you just want to lay on the sofa because you feel totally hopeless. You feel there's no positivity left in the world, even though you know it's going to lift in however many days. You just don't feel like that in the moment, and it's so overwhelming and like consuming that you are unable to think that you're going to come out of this phase. So to be literally at the height of my PMDD stage, because I was about to bleed, like, you know, the next day or 2 days later. So to be literally right in the thick of it, and to be like, oh yeah, I'll do that, I can do this, how great, no problem, no, it doesn't take any energy, I'll just do it, was honestly huge. It was such a big breakthrough.
Wow, Holly, that's so well articulated. That was amazing. Thank you so much for like really going deep into your story there. Isn't Chantelle amazing? Can I just say, you were her first case study. That was the first time she'd actually done it, and it was on you. Or maybe you were her second one. But Chantelle, look how amazing you've done.
Oh, I'm emotional just hearing that story because I relate with everything. Like, it ruled and ruined my life. And so if it ruled and ruined my life, I just knew it was ruling and ruining other people's lives. And everything Holly said about, like, you can't leave the house. There's no way. The plans are cancelled. The crying takes over. Then the guilt comes. And because of the drop of natural hormones that happen in the body. But with people with PMDD, we are reacting really sensitively to it. There's a lot of deep science into it. That's why then the limiting beliefs just get overwhelming, over consuming. You don't want to leave the house. You cancel the plans with friends or family or relatives. You don't want to talk to anybody, even though that's what you need. You need that soothing and you need that comfort and you need that little hug, but you just can't. So honestly, I'm emotional hearing Holly, and that's why I said to her, sometimes we want this healed, we want it fixed, we want it gone. Of course we all do, but it's not even about fixing yourself, it's about becoming unstuck. It's not that we were broken ever, it was just our nervous systems just didn't know how to cope with different things, and now our PMDD symptoms are a case of our nervous systems being stuck. So a part of being stuck is, I'm stuck in the house now. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to meet friends. I don't want to meet new people. For me, interviews, new things, making decisions were all out the window. And now I just resonate so much with Holly. It's like this lease of life that, like, now you don't have to, oh, where am I in my cycle? Oh, no, I can't go out and do that. Oh, I can't. How could I possibly have a spontaneous lunch with my partner because everything's going to be overwhelming and consuming? So I just am really grateful for you, Anne-Marie, but also for Holly to be so vulnerable within herself, open-minded, really aware of her body as well. I'm just, overwhelmed with gratefulness.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well done, Chantal. I'm so happy for you because I know you've been like, oh gosh, like, this is new and doing it right. And I'm like, look at the feedback you're getting from your ladies that you're working with. It's life-changing stuff for them. But I know your journey, you've shared it so openly, and there's another interview that people can watch where you do go into your story. But how have you been personally? Because you've had a couple of sessions with SMART. So where are you now with your PMDD symptoms? Are you still experiencing them, or are they a lot lighter, or?
So I was really skeptical, like most people with PMDD, because we've tried everything, like Holly mentioned. I tried the antidepressants, which was covering symptoms. I've tried the hormonal contraceptions covering symptoms. I was so desperate is the word, and talking therapy. That's a big, huge thing as well, is talking through potentially some the symptoms that you're getting. So for me, it was really anger. And I had been going to therapists 5, 6 years on and off when different anger spells were coming up in my life. Partners were one thing that triggered it. Jobs, life stresses. It was just the anger, the underlying anger in everything. So I was really skeptical because I was like, I've tried this, I've tried supplements, I've tried antidepressants, I've tried everything apart from being medically induced into menopause and having a hysterectomy. Because I'm 35, potentially I may want children at some stage. I was just like, I don't feel like I want to take parts of my body away at this stage if I don't have to. So I was skeptical. I was umming and ahhing. I've been following Anne-Marie for a little while. Like, she was like, where have you come from? because I was really under the radar. I was one of those people that was just like, I'm just going to sit back and observe everything that's going on. Then I was just like, reached out to Anne-Marie and I was like, I think I'm taking the plunge. And she was like, are you coming? I was like, I think so. So when it comes to symptoms, I was very skeptical. I was like, had my first sessions around ovulation. So I was like, I do get symptoms around ovulation, mainly anxiety. So I was like, but it's not me in my worst anger stages of PMDD. Well, within that first cycle, within the first 2 weeks, I had an incident with my car. I broke down. That would normally send me over the edge. I wouldn't normally even be leaving the house, but I left the house to go on a date, which would never happen. And I broke down coming back from this date, which would normally send me into a trauma response because I would feel unsafe. And I'd be like, well, there's no one to help me. I'm alone. What do I do? I live alone. My parents are 100 miles away. I was alone, but I didn't panic. I just took it in my stride. I was completely in my flow. I let some men help me that pulled over and I was like a damsel in distress. Normally I'd be like, no, absolutely not. So I noticed within the first 2 weeks, my skin cleared up, which was a major thing that I wouldn't have even realized unless I was using my specific blemish prone moisturizer at that time of the month. No blemishes, no outbreak there in my skin with acne and spots. Sleep is still something that I struggle with, but it is the summer and I know I struggle with that. But now I've been kind of this is my second cycle that's just passed. There's not really anything there, like, which is like, I maybe have a slight bit of PMS, like a slight bit of irritation. But one thing that was major, I usually avoid talking to my grandparents that week because the irritation, the anger, the little triggers that I'm normally like, I cannot cope with this. I called them every day that week and I didn't even realize. Like, my grandma even said something which would normally send me over the edge, and I was just like, I'm unfazed. I am unbothered. That was not me. That I was not an unfazed or unbothered girly. Like, I was like triggered at every single thing that anyone said. So for me, it's like, there's a slight bit of PMS, there's a slight bit of like irritability, but apart from that, there's nothing really there, which I never thought would ever happen in my 35 years of life.
Wow, flipping hell. I'm so happy to hear you say that. And God, that makes me feel emotional to know that this can have on somebody's life when they've been suffering for so long and not knowing that there's ever going to be a relief from what you're feeling and the impact and wrecking ball that it's made on both of your lives. So I'm just so happy to hear that that's the depth it can go to and that's sustainable. Now, Chantelle, I know you've kept working on yourself, and you know, I would say to anybody, if you've had something for so long, one session is, I don't know, I always think like you've got to keep embodying this new lifestyle, resetting with the technique, and it's designed to be that way for self-help purposes, isn't it? So it's to keep on doing it.
I think for PMDD, we're in the early stages of testing it with PMDD, but what I've said to Holly is that you've had this condition that's ruled over your life I've had it since I was 10. That's when I started menstruating. So I had all these symptoms, but they just get passed off as like, well, you're just hormonal. You're a hormonal teenager. You're going through puberty. Like, and then I got to 25 and I was like, why am I still acting like I'm 12? Like, why am I not coping with things as I should do? Why am I still absolutely losing it every single month? Like, but because it's so isolating, PMDD, you just think that's normal. You just think, well, I'm just a girl. Like, I'm a girl. I go through these hormonal things every month. Like, everyone else must just experience this. You don't realize until you're in certain situations, work, relationships, until they're fully torn apart, which is I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, until your life is completely torn apart, where you've lost your job, they're going to dismiss you, you've lost friendships, you've lost relationships, you've lost a lot of things. You just think, I can't keep doing this every month. So think about what for PMDD, you've got to think this has been in your life for so many years, likely from when you started menstruating, that one session is typically, we can work on one symptom, one area, potentially one memory, but that's just that one thing. For me, what I've really seen is I've had 5 or 6 sessions and we've gone into different things and different symptoms and different limiting beliefs that come up around your luteal, because it's typically the progesterone dips so rapidly that the progesterone is what is used to calm down your brain chatter with people that don't have PMDD. So they typically feel quite level because they've got that progesterone kind of calming them. With PMDD, it's the other way around. You are forcing yourself to look in the mirror and be like, you see your worst version of you, but it's telling you to be like, how can you heal yourself? How can you show up from yourself? How can you soothe yourself? How can we heal? What do we need to work on? But we're not taught in as women to listen to our bodies. We're taught to hustle, hustle, hustle 24/7, think, act like a man. And that's just the way it is. That's not ever going to change. But that, for me, that's been a huge thing. Is like, oh my God, as a female, being so in tune with your body and what it's trying to tell you. So for people with PMDD, it's a journey, I would say, like it has been for myself. It's uncovering these layers of 25 years, potentially longer, shorter, but a long time that we've had these things that we need to kind of peel back and take a look into.
Yeah, and as you say, and Holly will, be testament to this as well, and your other lady. I know you've researched this a lot, Chantelle. It can be related to trauma as well. So, when you are dealing with trauma, this SMART technique, we take a trauma-informed approach. But in your case studies, there have been issues there. It's not just PMDD related to a menstrual cycle, as we all experience our own levels of trauma. So it's like peeling back one layer, which is working on the symptoms to give you that major relief. And then if you need more sessions, it's just going to go even deeper. So like with Holly, we are going to do another session, and we're going to work on some emotions that she's noticed for the whole of her life. So now we've helped the PMDD symptoms, we can go even deeper now. And some people might need, a course. Some people might just need 1 or 2 or 1. But in the case of PMDD, I'm not the expert. You ladies are the expert, because you know what this is like. So I just really appreciate you both jumping on and really sharing both of your stories. It's incredible. But I just want you to know, Chantelle, that you are excellent at this. So don't ever doubt it again.
It's the PMDD creeping in. there's always things to work. It's little.
This is so.
But it's a gift. It's telling your body what to work on next, what to look out for, how are we working. But I'm just so thankful to have the opportunity to give myself this opportunity, but to give to Holly and to other women with PMDD and give them their lives back, because you deserve it. We deserve it.
Yes, I mean, to get this in education for children, to help them, because like you ladies happened from when you started your period, and when I think, crikey, that's when a lot of my issues started. So to be able to educate parents and children and to help them in some way, potentially might be the future. Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you, and thank you, Chantelle, as well. Like, I really can't just say enough how much that session last week, you took me out of, I'd been in a really negative place for a week, and I couldn't see the way out. And then we did that session, and I just felt so much better after the session. And that's just huge. Like, thank you so much. I really can't express enough how grateful I am for your help with that.
That's beautiful.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, ladies. I'll let you go and have a lovely weekend. Lots of love to you both.
Bye.
Please.